Tell us about the timeline. Second quarter of next year sounds a lot later than what a lot of people are talking about.
Yeah, so this is for full approval. We expect emergency use authorization somewhere in late November to late December. That will open the grounds for vaccination of the high-risk population, either people that are pretty comorbid or predisposed or elderly, and the folks who are on the front line, so the medical professionals and so forth. So there's about 17 million people who are considered to be employed in position that exposes them to a high risk. About 16 million additional ones who are considered to be elderly and dual risk. So we think those will be vaccinated starting in kind of like December till April or so. And at that point, we'll probably have enough safety data that people will feel comfortable, the FDA will feel comfortable to say, fine, even if your risk is not high, the vaccine is right for you. And at that point, we'll open the floodgates to the broader population vaccination.
I think one of the biggest questions that investors are grappling with is what happens when we do get an FDA emergency use authorization and the people that are designated can start to take a vaccine. What happens to economic activity, to consumer confidence? How quickly does that light switch on? What does your analysis show?
So that's a great question. So our take is that most governments are looking primarily at the issue of number of people hospitalized and mortality. So if you're going to go ahead and immunize those high-risk populations, what you're going to end up having first is a decline in mortality and in hospitalization. And that should happen somewhere towards the end of the first quarter. At that point, we think that a lot of government, including, I'm guessing, some states in the U.S., will begin to feel comfortable to tell the public, fine, if you're not at risk, you can go ahead and move to a more of a voluntary way of segregating yourself, where they don't require places to be closed, but rather leave it to the business or the individual to decide how much risk they take. As long as the system is not at risk because the number of the mortality and the hospitalization rates are down, I think we'll be okay. So I would take as acceleration of economic activity will probably start around mid-year of 2021. In the good case, in the case those vaccine will get approved in reasonable time, which is what we think. Or if we have some delays, then towards the end of the year.
When we look at a stock like J&J, Ronnie, what portion of your overall value of the company is captured in COVID-related vaccine and treatments versus all the traditional part of the business? Do we overly focus on COVID at the moment? Every day there's news flow and the stock price reacts so much?
So I think the answer is pretty straightforward, yes. So you want to think about this vaccine wave as something that will happen in 2021. And we kind of give the first wave vaccination about an $18 billion value. But the problem is you don't know how much of that will translate into long-term trends. The assumption is there'll be less vaccination when the disease will be over. And if the vaccine work a little bit better than the minimum, that is, they work for 2 or 3 years, then our take is that, then dollar value available longer term is much lower. So we kind of put the long-term value of this COVID-19 market around $5 billion, roughly. That's kind of like our mid-case scenario. The U.S. business alone for vaccine is about $400 billion, 350, 400. OUS is roughly the same size. So you're kind of talking about $5 billion out of $800 billion for the drug industry. Obviously, if we get some sort of an action on drug pricing next year, it'll probably be even bigger than that. So we don't think this is a significant value driver for long term. Obviously, on an interim momentum, it makes much more of a difference.
One of the other models you guys looked at was social distancing by industry and sort of figured out what that meant for earnings expectations. Do you think that's in the market? And what were some of the key findings?
So this is more of where our strategist, which was where the guy who did this work, probably be appropriate here. I will hack this a little bit, but here's our take. Our take is this is not quite in the model. The rate of economical growth that he projects for next year is probably lower than most other analysts or what the market right now factors. In terms of industries, obviously heavy industries, industrial production will probably come in first, and our cruise lines probably a lot later, just if you think about the normal behavior of humans.
Yeah. Ronnie, thank you for joining us.